It's 2021 and diversity is top of mind for companies and CEOs. But more often than not, diversity and inclusion is often an HR-driven initiative focused on recruiting, focused on hiring. Sometimes it's a philanthropic endeavor. This next conversation is about underwriting diversity and actively making it part of your business model. That's what the private equity giant TPG is doing. TPG's co-CEO John Winkelried joins us now from San Francisco, and one of TPG's investments is Landspire, a real estate investment firm that's founded by Josh Childress. Basketball fans will recognize Josh from his years on the Atlanta Hawks and other NBA and EuroLeague teams, and Josh joins us from LA as well. And full disclosure that TPG is a sponsor of the Bloomberg Equality Summit. John and Josh, great to speak with you. John, I want to start with you to kind of set the scene here. TPG today is announcing the official launch of TPG Next, which refers to TPG Next Generation of capital allocators. What is this initiative about? Explain it to us. And how is it different from, say, an impact fund?
Well, TPG Next is it's really our newly branded effort to back diverse managers. What we've decided to do at the firm is really try to go right to the issue of trying to put diverse people into the seat of being capital allocators. And as we all know, I think one of the challenges that we face is getting diverse entrepreneurs flowing capital to growing companies that are founded and led by diverse people. Until we solve the problem of putting diverse people into the seat of being capital allocators, running funds, and being able to use their networks to flow capital in that direction, I don't think we'll solve this problem. I don't think we'll make a lot of progress on it. So we've been working on this over the course of the last couple of years, really, and we've now developed an initiative internally at TPG to really brand this and drive this in a more systematic institutional way. So the objective of TPG Next is seeding, supporting, and scaling the next generation of diverse investors and managers. And we're focused on women, people of color, LGBTQ individuals. So that's basically what it is.
Okay, and one of your investments is Harlem Capital, a Black-owned VC fund. I spoke with the CEO, Jared Tingle, not so long ago, and he told me that he sees diversity as an asset class, which I thought was a really interesting way of putting it, because his mission is to back female and minority entrepreneurs. TPG Next kind of treats diversity as a horizontal asset class that spans across your different verticals, whether it's real estate or growth equity or PE. Can you explain how investments in TPG Next differ from what you did with, say, Airbnb or Spotify or any of your other investments in the past?
Yeah, well, I mean, Next is really designed to be sort of the catalyst to get diverse people into seats where, whether it's private equity, whether it's venture, whether it's real estate, again, as you mentioned, horizontal, it's really designed to be the effectively seed and launch managers that will then ultimately go on to be themselves successful investors and successful allocators of capital. And so, as opposed to investing in a single company, a single portfolio company, the idea here is ultimately to create a lot of leverage by using the TPG, using our ecosystem, using our capabilities. Obviously, we've been around for a while. We have a lot of skills as it relates to investing. We have the ability to help raise capital for these folks. We have the ability to help them see around corners as it relates to deal activity. And so I wouldn't say there's one cookie cutter approach here. And, Josh, obviously, who's on with us, represents the latest initiative and our latest investment from TPG Next, the idea here on the Landspire group is we've created our first ever program of investors in residence. So what we're trying to do together with Josh and his team, with Josh, Justin, and Justin, is to have them join the firm for a year as employees, partnering with our real estate team, and I want to thank our real estate team really for their focus and effort and partnership here in launching this new program. But these guys are joining as investors in residence, really working with our team,
Sure.
sharing deal flow, beginning to develop their capabilities as investors, and then hopefully benefiting from the rest of the ecosystem in terms of firm building, culture building, things like that. And the idea is after a year, they continue to, they go on and build their firm.
Right. So let's bring Josh into this conversation. Josh, you did not go the traditional route of investment banking, analyst job, and then business school. You were a professional basketball player for about 15 years in the U.S. and Europe and Australia and Japan, so all over the world. You've been intrigued with business and starting businesses since your days as an undergrad at Stanford. Tell us a little bit about the benefit and the drawback of having an unconventional, untraditional background as you start this investor in residence program.
Yeah, I think the benefit is that I view things from a different lens, right? I didn't go on the traditional track, as you mentioned. However, I'm using it as an asset as, I just approach investment opportunities, from a different angle, potentially less analytical, however, much more relationship driven and understanding the deal dynamics and what it takes to make a good investment. And so, my differentiated approach to investing, I think, is what has created Landspire Group and what has garnered us a little bit of success over the 2 years of our existence.
And when you were playing basketball, you were investing. You mentioned that you were investing in property, and it was kind of an investment out of instinct. You kind of went with your gut feel for a lot of it. What prompted you to launch Landspire specifically and focus on real estate after your career, your basketball career?
Yeah, so while playing, it's difficult to actively manage investments. And so I did, I focused on my day job, if you will, while investing as an LP alongside good operators. And I did that, over the duration of my career. And towards the latter part of my career, I started investing in more commercial properties that I felt, were just more fitting for where I wanted to be as an investor. And, I started Landspire Group. And really, my focus on real estate stems back to, my great-grandfather, who in 1894 was a landowner in the South, right? And so I view real estate as, part of my DNA, as, it's been in my family, for a number of years. And, moving to Stanford, having a scholarship donor named John Arriaga, who was a successful real estate investor in the Bay Area, I saw the impact that real estate had on individuals like myself, right? He was able to garner a fair amount of success in his endeavors. But, for an individual like me coming from Compton, I would have never been able to afford to attend Stanford, had it not been for the generosity of Mr. A. And so I saw the power of real estate once again, in that regard. And that is the genesis of why real estate is near and dear to my heart. But also, Landspire was birthed with my former college teammate and roommate, Justin Davis, on the heels of the Opportunity Zone legislation and how we knew that there was going to be a fair amount of capital flowing into under-resourced communities. And most of these communities, would not or the community stakeholders, rather, would not benefit from, this capital. There'd be a lot of wealthy individuals and institutions coming in and, retaining and gaining wealth, while there's probably a fair amount of gentrification happening, and so that's the genesis of the company, and why we feel it's important to focus on some of these communities.
Josh, you had told me a story about how you were attending commercial real estate conferences that had 500 people, 1,000 people, and you and Justin, your co-founder, were the only Black men, or it felt like you were the only Black men at that event. Tell us a little bit about the challenges of moving forward as commercial real estate developers and investors in that kind of environment where you can count the number of your peers on one hand.
Yeah, I think, you mentioned something earlier, diversity as an asset class, and we really believe in that. We think that we have, a differentiated approach to how we invest and where we invest, and understanding the buying power in the minority communities there's capital there, and they want to live in nice areas and buy nice things and eat at nice restaurants. And it's a matter of us as investors coming into these communities and providing that for these individuals, while also continuing to grow the ecosystem and help more and more communities benefit from the capital that's pouring into some of these areas, or lack thereof in some areas as well.
John, through programs like this, both sides have an opportunity to become a lot more self-aware. What is something that you realized about your firm, about TPG, in the process of building up and building out TPG Next? Do you find, for instance, that you may have been too reliant in the past on founders with traditional backgrounds? I mentioned the 2 years of investment banking and then business school. Were your due diligence requirements perhaps too set in stone, too stringent?
Well, I think, and this ties back into your comment about diversity as an asset class, because I think that's really a good framing. And what it turns on is that, when you think about how we source certain opportunities to invest in, what our networks are individually, our network as a firm is sort of the culmination or a combination of our networks individually. And it was pretty obvious to us after meeting, some of the diverse managers that we're backing as part of TPG Next, that our frame of reference, our lens, is a function of who we are. And so, for instance, when we met the Harlem Capital team, and they talked about how they were sourcing deals, they were creating social engagement with their cohort, which was a younger, diverse cohort, and generating deal flow and ideas as a result of that. And that's something that we as a firm would really fundamentally never see, We've also, as part of TPG Next, we backed a manager, a firm called Vamos Ventures, run by Marcos Gonzalez. It focuses on the Latinx community. When you look at the focus of his business, where he's trying to flow capital, the story behind the Latinx community, the impact it's having on consumption generally around the country, consumer trends, population trends, that's just something we naturally don't see, versus somebody like Marcos, who really understands it so intimately because it's part of who he is, it's part of his culture, it's part of his network. And then obviously, Josh and Justin, and Josh just described it very well. I mean, his environment, where he comes from, what he's looking at, what he's seeing. So from our perspective, this is really good business. This completely changes our frame of reference. It opens new channels for sourcing of activity, sourcing of investment activity. And so for us, it's not only about our push on equity, inclusion, making our firm be a more diverse organization, but it's also it's a commercial opportunity.
It's a commercial opportunity and something that you're committing your balance sheet to as well. Can you give us any sense of how much of your balance sheet you're committing to TPG Next?
Well, we're making investments both as we back these managers. What we're trying to do is we're trying to provide capital for them to help them grow. So effectively, think of it as growth capital, or for building team, building their firm. We're also trying to make investments that are effectively seed investments in their as an LP in their funds. So we're trying to act as an accelerant, and we're trying to act as a validator, so that when Josh goes out to raise capital, he's got TPG as an investor. Besides a partner, he has TPG as an investor. And then we're able to use our network to help put him in front of potential investors, on the institutionally sized investors. And so we're investing meaningful capital across these various organizations, and we're also starting to think about talking with some of our LP partners, our investing partners that we have as investors in our funds, about whether or not they want to join us in helping fund these next level, next generation managers. And so ultimately, if we do that, that'll help really accelerate what we're able to do.
Right, absolutely. Josh, how did you get connected with TPG? Because all of this, with that TPG investment and the brand name behind you, you are able to tap a much wider network. But for those who are listening and think that this is great, but they can't get to that point where they meet someone like John and TPG, what was the instance that led you to TPG?
Yeah, through a mutual friend, we got connected with Kelvin Davis, that heads up the real estate team. And then we spent about seven months really with Justin Nunez, who's kind of leading the charge on TPG Next. And, we built a relationship with him, talked through a lot of the things that we like to accomplish. I think one of the biggest things for us, as namesake, with TPG Next is we want to be the next TPG, right? And how can we, learn from, one of the best to do it in the investment space, sharpen our skill set, increase our investment acumen, and really develop as investors. And I think this program is exciting to our firm because we get an opportunity to get a peek under the hood of what's, a best-in-class investment firm, understand culture, understand team building, understand, the depth and breadth of how they invest and why they invest, and, really, mimic that as a firm. And so it's an exciting time for us. We're learning a lot, having started about 2 weeks ago. We were drinking from a fire hose on some opportunities, but, the team has been wonderful to work with and, really helpful in helping us understand what it takes to be a successful investor. We've done as best we can,
Sure.
over the 2 years. We've been a part of a little over $300 million in investments. But, this opportunity gives us a chance to broaden our horizons and get access to, larger investors and pools of capital that we otherwise wouldn't have had access to.
So, Josh, just if you could get more specific, what were you most surprised by in the 2 weeks that you have spent with TPG, embedded with the firm and working with some of the guys in the real estate team, working with the guys in the growth equity team? What surprised you the most?
The types of opportunities. I mean, they're seeing things that I didn't know existed. We're seeing things all over the world. Some really, really large opportunities, and really understanding the deliberate nature and the thematic approach to how they invest. I mentioned earlier about investing on instinct, and that's what we've done. But they take a much more analytical approach, and it's very methodical, and you really get a chance to see, how they've done it at a high level for so long. I'd liken it to us being a young player, coming into, a team with Michael Jordan, right? And so you see how he approaches the game, how he watches film, how he puts in the extra time in the weight room. And that's what we're seeing firsthand right now, which has been amazing for us as a firm.
And John, what kind of feedback have you gotten from your investors, from your portfolio companies, from your employees, from peers in the space? Are they intrigued? Are they a little bit resistant? I mean, how are they responding to this initiative?
I think most of them are fascinated by it. I think that most of them are. There's a clear recognition now that the world of investing and those that allocate capital, that something has to change, that this has to evolve, and that it's been a pretty narrow kind of inside game for quite a long time, and now we're breaking out of that. And so I think our investors are very intrigued. Our institutional investors are really are challenged to find opportunities to invest in investment strategies that are run by diverse talent. But at the same time, it's very unformed and it's very early stage in terms of really where is the talent, how is it developing, how are they deploying capital? So the ability to think of it as putting these managers on the TPG chassis, if you will, and then bringing them to market and helping really be somewhat more structured about it, but allowing the special sauce that these folks bring to bear, what they see that's different, and allowing that to develop and allowing that to, in a sense, kind of institutionalize but change the landscape of investing is pretty intriguing to most of our investors and our portfolio companies, our portfolio company CEOs.
Josh, final question to you. What's your goal that you want to reach by the end of your investor in residence year? I mean, you may not be a rival to TPG by the end of 1 year, but what's a concrete goal that you have in mind?
A concrete goal is to significantly increase our investment acumen as a firm and be ready to launch a fund and a platform a year from now with TPG as an anchor investor and a partner in that. And so that's a goal that we've set out to accomplish. Over the course of this year, we'd like to make sure we're doing a couple of deals to continue to build our company. But for us, this is a great learning experience, and we want to be able to launch the Landspire Group fund a year from now alongside TPG.
We won't be rivals. We won't be rivals. Nothing will be better than to be able to have an opportunity to co-invest along with the Landspire Group as they're out on their own creating value on the real estate side.
All right, I want to thank you both so much for sharing the TPG Next initiative and telling us about what you're working on. John Winkelried, co-CEO of TPG, and Josh Childress, CEO and founder of Landspire Group. Thank you.